What is up, everybody? Pumped to be on. Go live over here too. Hope you guys are crushing the game. Let me get over to my chat. Got all sorts of stuff set up here. All right, what is up? Got people here, got people here. All right, we are talking about, I got a lot of questions about this last time we hopped on here. So I figured this time we would talk about internal family systems. Internal family systems. These are a fun time. If you've never heard of this, it's a methodology, therapeutic methodology, but internal family systems is something I got a ton of questions on. I want to talk a little bit about how it works, what it is, that kind of stuff, so that you guys can start to understand what's going on with it and how it can kind of, how you can start to understand it in relation to your parts. So the biggest thing to understand about internal family systems is that you are made up of many parts. You're not just one thing. So when you are thinking about how this works, I found it really easy. A really easy picture to understand this with is it's a picture with all these different blue parts. And then it has this head that makes coffee. What is up? It makes all of the stuff that makes it all make sense. So when you're thinking about internal family systems, you've got the concept that there's a self that is you, and then you've got the concept that there are many parts of you, which is a fun time. Can be kind of scary to think about sometimes, but it's intuitive when you start to think about it. So when you're thinking about this, I suggest that you start to think about hell yes, it is. I love it. So when you start to think about it, being able to start to think about having multiple, when you are around other people, right? When you are at church or when you're at home or when you're just in general, when you're in different places, you have different parts of you that kind of take over. The core piece to understand about IFS, which I freaking love, is that there's a self, like the capital S self, that is, there's 8 C's of self, right? So you are curious, confident, calm, connected, courageous, clear, compassionate, and creative. I have them written on a board right here. So those are the 8 C's, and we're all born this way. We're all born with these 8 C's. When you're not acting within one of these 8 C's, a part has blended with you. And so, or the way I like to think about it when I work with people is a piece of the bus has, or another part of you has taken over driving the bus, right? So when you get anxious, that anxious part of you is now driving the bus. When you feel rejection or shame or guilt or rage or anger, or your inner critic is beating you up, or some like any type of addictive behavior or thing like that, that's a firefighter, or it's a type of protector or a type of part, specific type of part. And so, but the self is the self is those 8 C's always. We're born this way. And so the big piece to understand about this is that these parts, right, get made when, yes, that is true. Also, the self cannot be seen. The self observes the inner world. Yes, the self is like the inner parent, is the way I kind of like to think about it. Like you've got all these little parts of you that are all younger versions of you. And that's how parts are created. So parts are created because relative to our maturity, we have to become a human fast. So you have to become human quickly. And so because you have to become a human fast, you have to make up rules quick and fast to figure out the world and become human fast relative to your maturity. So you might make a rule. So like the self is curious, right? So you're a kid, you're in class, you raise your hand, ask a question, and you get made fun of for it, right? So what do you learn? What does that young nervous system learn, and what rule does it make? Okay, we don't ask questions. I don't ever want to feel guilt, I don't ever want to feel shame again. I don't ever want to feel this rejection again. And so that's scary. That sucks. And so it creates that rule, and it creates those protectors so that you never have to experience that again. And so these parts are younger versions of us that make up these rules, right? There's some specific types of parts. It can get a little confusing as we get into some of these parts. So if you guys have questions, drop them in the comments. But when you're thinking about the parts, you've got protectors, which come in two flavors, and exiles. So exiles are parts of you that were traumatized in some way, or like the rejection you felt in that moment, or it could be abuse, it could be fear, it could be terror, it could be anger, it could be shame, it could be horror. Those types of things become exiles, and exiles get locked up in behind bars, right? So you lock them away, you shove them down, you repress them, you don't think about them, and you put them behind bars. And they're just these younger versions of you that were hurt and traumatized, and younger portions, literally a younger version of your nervous system that is locked away in there at the age that it happened to you. And once you've locked them away, to keep them locked away, because exiles can be overpowering, and that's hard. Exiles can be very overpowering. Like they take over your entire body. And when they take over your body, it can feel, again, overwhelming, like anxiety feels scary. It's in your chest, like you don't like it. And so what happens is we make these protectors, right, to keep us away from these exiles so that we don't go and talk to or get to these exiles. And so, which is not fun. But what starts to happen is we create these protectors, and there's two types of protectors. There are managers and there are firefighters. So managers their motto is never again. Never again will Cody feel this way. Never again will Cody feel rejection or shame or guilt or any of these things. It creates that manager, and a manager tries to control everything right now, trying to control the present moment. This is the inner critic. This is the people pleaser. This is the empath. There's so many different types of managers can kind of take over, which can be scary. But ultimately, once you start to learn to navigate and work with these things, you start to understand, these are here to protect me. And help me out. And so those are managers. And then firefighters, when managers get tired, firefighters take over. Their motto is react and distract. They want to react and distract you from getting to the exile, right? So these are addictions. These could be like self-harm. There's all sorts of different types of things that can be firefighters that you'd be surprised. But they're high dopamine, doom scrolling on social media, binge eating, different things like that can be I wish there was a way to tell my protectors, thank you for protecting me, but you need to be now. So there is, you can actually talk to your protectors. I do this with my clients, actually help them walk through and talk to their protectors, and have a conversation with them. And instead of telling them something, you understand them, you seek to understand them. That's the beautiful thing. When you start to understand these managers and firefighters, you stop trying to tell them things, and you start trying to understand them, validate them, right? So we just imagine like a little kid, these parts of you, these managers and firefighters are like little kids. And when you imagine the self is like the inner parent, right? And so when a kid gets hurt, right, like scrapes his knee or something, you go to that kid and have a conversation, talk to it. What's going on? How can I help you? And you soothe it and try to understand what's happened and all the stuff, right? You don't take the kid, put it in a closet and hope it gets better, right? When it's throwing a tantrum, you don't do that, right? So why do you do that to the parts of you that are young little kids trying to ask for your help? And so being able to go seek to understand them, replaced now, beautiful. I love it. So that's awesome. I love it. Great. So it's good that you want to build that relationship. Beautiful, Abigail Love. So it's awesome that you want to create that relationship, at least. So that's a great start. So that's how these navigate. And so like I mentioned, you have protectors that are managers and firefighters, and then exiles. Exiles are really, really deep wounds. Those are tough ones to talk through and talk to. They can be overpowering. I highly, highly recommend that you work with someone that knows how to stay present and knows how to stay in self, and knows how to navigate through what could pop up when you're talking to an exile. So be careful if you're going to talk to an exile or try to talk to an exile or an exiled part of you. They can be extraordinarily overwhelming. And so just be very careful. And please do that with somebody, a professional, that can help you through what's happening. So just be super careful with those. But otherwise, managers or protectors, firefighters, managers and firefighters are really, really good to have conversations with. So, and start to build a relationship with. Hello, what's up, Jamie? So what questions do you guys have about this kind of stuff? I love answering questions about this kind of stuff. Diane Lewis, you can. Yes, you can. Good work. I like that. Hi, thanks for your helpful content. Thanks so much, Nick. Hard to read, but I can see Nicolette or Nicolette. I appreciate it. What do you like about it? Any questions? We're on some other channels as well here. Elise, hello. What's up, everyone? Talking about internal family systems. I talk about this a lot in relation to anxiety. We have the Anxious to Action Challenge coming up here in the next couple of days, actually. If you guys haven't checked that out already, I highly recommend to go check out the Anxious to Action Challenge. There's a link in our bio if you haven't checked it out yet. We talk about managers and firefighters, protectors in that challenge. So it's fun, and what to do with them, how to get you into action. So I'm just starting to be able to communicate with my inner child. Hell yeah, Diana. How's that going? Are you having fun? It can be scary. Inner child work, it's good. Creating that, having that parent, that internal parent is super helpful. We do some of that in the Anxious Action Challenge. At least getting to know the anxiety protector. Magnesium, omega, better brain health. Yeah, so Nicolette, I would check out lifeforce.com if you're looking for brain supplements. That's the one that I recommend, lifeforce.com. They have, if you go to their drop-down menu, they have a whole category for brain health. And those are the ones that I would suggest. They have one for sleep specifically. That is amazing. If you're having a hard time sleep, you put magnesium in there. So I don't know if that's one that you're looking at. They do have a magnesium supplement. Their omega, their omegas. I can't remember. I think it's Life Force Omega is what it's called. Has the most optimal amount of DHA and EPA as far as omega-3 supplements go. So I would check those out. Those would be ones that I would suggest. Nicolette. What do I do? Whoops. Let's see. What do I do? Whoops. What do I do if you're feeling this all the time? What are you feeling all the time? Help me understand what you're feeling all the time. When you do your 4 to 5 day classes, are they live on Facebook as well? Elise, yes, they are. They're live every night at 7 p.m. Central, and then they're also recorded. So when we do the Anxious to Action Challenge, so Elise asked a question about the Anxious to Action Challenge, which is coming up starting Thursday, I believe, this week. We do them live. There's a Facebook group. You jump in there. There's a community, a group that you get to hang out with. We do the lives, and then they're recorded. So if you can't jump onto one, that's cool. The replays are posted in the group, so you can watch them the next day. Some people can't make it, so we post it in there so you can watch it the next day. So that's the Anxious to Action. The link is in our bio. I can also put a link in here as well, so you can check in, or so you can check it out and have a link to that. Let me get you that. 1 second, Elise. Let's see, what other questions do we have? I'm grabbing that for you, Elise. All right, there you go. You got that. There you go, got it. All right, let's look at some of these other questions. Hey, thanks for your helpful content. Anytime, any recommendation for supplements? Got that one. I'm tuning in late. Looks like I missed a lot. It's all right, Rachel. You didn't miss that much. We just talked about internal family systems. It's a fun time. We were talking about how we are more than just one thing. We're many parts. We have a self at the center. That's like the self parent of the system. All of our parts are younger versions of ourselves that we're made to create. We're created to protect us, or we're exiled. And so those are some of the basics. We kind of define those terms a little bit, but if you have more questions, DM me. I'm happy to talk to you. So 35 years of narcissistic, psychopathic, parental abuse. Been in therapy for 3 years. How is that going? Talk to me about that. All right, Jamie, high anxiety. Okay, got it. So if you're feeling high anxiety, the first thing that I suggest for everybody who's feeling high anxiety, this is like my number one thing I work on with people is anxiety. Anxious to action, that's my motto, is you got to start to build confidence, self-confidence and self-esteem that you can actually beat the anxiety. So a lot of times what people don't realize who have anxiety is they're trying to process it in their mind, in their head. But 80% of what's happening bottom up. Like 80% of the things your brain is bringing in is bottom up, body up. So anxiety is generated, stored, and felt in the body. And starting to balance your body first is what I suggest. So there's a couple methodologies that you can think about in relation to anxiety, high anxiety. Some are top down, so talking about the anxiety, which a lot of people who come to us have tried talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, and it's not working. They want to learn how to get into action. I feel that. So the first thing I suggest is getting back to your body. So getting habits, patterns, healthy patterns, habits, patterns, and routines in your mind, something for your mind every day: sleep, exercise, nutrition, social connection, and play. Those are the 6 areas of what we call the hero's body in our Me 2.0 program. So those are the first 6 steps I take. You start to establish habits and routines in that area. And then the next thing I suggest, which is more top down, so from your mind to your brain to your body, is to name your anxiety. So what do you call it, right? And start to change the relationship with your anxiety to where it is less of a, oh, I hate you, and more of a, you're here to help and protect me. Like you're not here to kill me. So that's a huge, huge piece of beating anxiety, especially those 2 things. There's a lot more to it. So if you haven't already, I would love to be able to invite you to our Anxious to Action Challenge, number 1. So go to the link in my bio and click on that. We teach you, it's over 5 days, and we teach you 5 tools to help you go from anxious to action. So it's a really, really fun time. I suggest you go check that out, Jamie. And then if you have any other deeper questions, please DM me. But those would be some of like the most basic that I could get you here without getting into like extraordinary detail. Just finished my inner child work and accepted the depression afterwards. Almost out of it. Boom. I love to hear that. Thank you for sharing. It's a vulnerable thing to share on a live. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing that. Congratulations. Can you talk about attachment systems or styles? Sorry, sure. What would you like to know? 111 New Mexico. What would you like to know? Does EMDR therapy work for narcissistic abuse therapy? Does EMDR therapy work as a narcissistic abuse therapy? Yes, it can, for sure. EMDR is a really, really good therapy for traumas and things like that. So I would love to be able to talk more about that. I love it. Have you done Mama W? I like that, Mama W. It does. What have you tried it? What do you want to know more about it? Tell me some more. Anxiety. Can barely walk my nerves. Anxiety, I can barely walk my nerves so bad. I have neuropathy now. Yep, I'm sorry to hear that. I can't imagine how hard that is. We can help though. So check out the Anxious Action Challenge. I can absolutely help. Or DM me. That works too. Is bruxism a result? Bruxism. I'm not sure that I understand the question, Mama Haley 50. Any other questions that you guys have? Drop them in here. Let's see, we got another one. Do you think that a lot of people with CPTSD are misdiagnosed with ADHD due to overactive nervous system? Yes. I see this a lot, or people that self-diagnose themselves at least. Generally, I'm not a therapist, right? But most therapists, I think when they diagnose, they can't diagnose with ADHD if you're over a certain age, I'm pretty sure, but CPTSD can look like, and I work with people through CPTSD that have memory loss. They have all sorts of things that happen mentally: focus, memory, short-term, long-term, short-term, long-term memory, those types of things are messed up because their nervous system is hyperactive. You don't need those parts of your brain when you're that triggered. And so, yes, I for sure would think that happens. Traumatic attachments and how they are formed. Yeah, sure. So this is not my exact area of specialty, but when you're thinking about attachment systems and styles, you got anxious, avoidant, secure, and anxious avoidant. There's some other ones that they've created as well, but you can start to think about how these could be formed, right? Especially as when you're thinking about your parents, right? So first thing to think about, like, who are your parents? Like, did you have both of your parents around? Did you have loving, caring parents? What did you observe of your parents, right? So we learn as kids faster and more, we learn by observation and reflection more than anything. right? And so think back to that. Those are the first attachments that you have is with your parents, right? And so those are a really good place to start to think, and then start to think back to some of your initial relationships and different things like that. What is your favorite study of 2022 that blew your mind? Okay, so I'm going to give you a crazy one, Dr. Lee, Dr. Chris Lee. That, it's been a while, brother. Thanks for the question. The easy study to go with would be the SSRI study. But what I'm going to give you actually is the study that came out the day after. So let me give you some. I know Dr. Lee gets this, but the craziest one. So almost everybody has heard of the meta-analysis, which is like a collection of tons of research studies. They went and grabbed all the results, and they did they did an analysis on all the results of multiple studies. And what they found, or what the meta-analysis supported, was the huge one that everyone saw was that serotonin and some of the like SSRIs and there's not as significant of a connection between that and depression as people thought. What people did not see is that the day after that, there was another meta-analysis that came out. And so my favorite study of 2022 would be the meta-analysis that came out right after that one that supported the exact opposite claim, right? And it had just as many studies with almost like just the same amount of statistical significance as well. So that'd be the one that I thought was the most, I was going to say controversial, but it's not really controversial, but it blew my mind because it really helped me see, because I got into the wave. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it, serotonin and all this kind of stuff. But what that one blew my mind because it supported the exact opposite. And it just really goes to show how little we know about this stuff, how much more research needs to be done. Like, so it's just that's what my the one that blew my mind would be. I'll have to find it. I can't remember where I was on Neuroscience News that I found it, but I can't remember who the author was, but I can send it to you. I can find it. Thanks for the question, Dr. Lee, you animal. All right. Thanks for all the great answers and compassion. We'll try to think of some more questions. Hell yeah. I appreciate it. Feel free to DM me any that you have as well. If you haven't already, check out the Anxious Action Challenge as well. Who doesn't love science doing science things? I know. I wish more people heard about that one though. So I feel like there's this giant wave of like everybody's like, oh my God, this means that this is true and it's proven, and it's not the scientific method. Hi, currently trying to navigate a very sick dad after being low to no contact for 2 years. Wow, that's tough. Tell me how that's going. Katie Berkman. Hi, sir. Hello. How are you doing? Nicolette, what are your thoughts on psychedelic studies being promoted for mental health right now? I think that there's a lot of research that needs to be published about psychedelics and things like that as well. There's some really, really cool stuff going on. Like MAPS is a huge one. I think everybody's heard of that one. There's stuff going on at Johns Hopkins. There's stuff going on all over the place. But I think that there's a big difference between research saying something and anecdotal evidence. People saying that certain psychedelics or certain type of things are like, this works because I've done it. And it's like, okay, that's not how research works necessarily. So I'm back and forth on it. Science things. Want to drop a podcast on it? I'll drop you a DM, brother. Amazing seeing you. Hell yeah, I'd love to drop a podcast on it. I love dropping podcasts on anything brain related. Hell yeah. DM, drop you a DM. Cool. I'm pumped. I'm pumped to chat. That'd be my perspective on the psychedelic stuff, though. Any other questions? There is some really cool stuff like ketamine treatments and different things that are coming out in relation to some of these things. Taking the content, you have brilliant content and a broad knowledge base. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. We try to hit the buckets. We hit into narcissism a lot, obviously, but trying to get a little bit wider because I love brain science in general. Anxious to Action is the most recent. Does you have a question, Katie? Does anyone else have any questions? If you guys haven't already, make sure to check out the, put a link all over tons of social medias on here, but I can put a link in here too, if need be, to the Anxious to Action Challenge, links in our bio. Lisa Harris, I have not. Have you heard of 88 being now? or ask me that question again, Lisa, please. Okay, brilliant. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. I'd love to answer. Help you guys out. I really like the science question. Barbara Splotsky is my personal. Jesus. Any recommendations for similar scientists? I don't know if you've heard. Yeah, Splotsky has some thick books, but I like him too. Behavior and like he's got some really good ones. Dr. David Engelman would be one that I would suggest. Dr. Andrew Huberman is one that I would suggest. Dr. Caroline Leaf would be one that I would suggest. Those would be some really some foundational ones that I would suggest checking out. I follow a lot of what they do. Dr. Huberman has a podcast. Dr. Lex Friedman does a lot more in like tech, but he's another good one. I don't know if he has any books, but Dr. Gaber, or I can never pronounce Gaber something Mate. He's got some really good stuff that's out and about right now as well. Dr. Richard Schwartz is another one that I follow pretty closely and watch a lot of his stuff. No Bad Parts is what I is like the title book that he wrote. Maybe not the title one, but one that's recently come out. How long does it take to reprogram? That's a good question. 84 days is depend if you focus zoned in on one specific thing. About 84 days does it take to reprogram. Is what Dr. Caroline Lee, some of her research suggests, about 63 to 84 days to recreate or change a neural network in your head, which creates a new. Dr. Amen, Nicolette. I can't believe I forgot about that. Yes, Dr. Amen is a huge one. Sorry, but reprogramming your brain. 84 days is about how long it takes to change a neural network in your head, which represents a behavior, feelings, thoughts, actions, those loops. And so that's about how long the research suggests it takes to reprogram. If you're trying to break a trauma bond, or you're trying to heal from narcissistic abuse or a dysregulated nervous system, it could take longer because there's more than one thing you need to do. And so that's a huge piece. Mine is a little complex, as in Durkheim's disease. Do you believe they're correlated with cognition? I'd have to look those up. I don't specifically know those ones. If you DM me, I'd be happy to reach out or see anything I could find about it. I don't know those specifically off the top of my head. Yeah, I love Dr. Mate and Dr. Amen. Thanks for the other suggestions. Hell yeah. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot about Dr. Amen. So that's a huge one. Talk to me. Wow, without meds, great to know. Yes, without meds. That's doing some of the how do I stop ruminating naturally? Jody, great question. What you want to do if you want to stop ruminating naturally is to start trying to ruminate. So what I mean by that is instead of trying to push it away and get away from those thoughts, listen to them. Have a conversation with them. Right? So the ruminating parts of you are there to try to protect you in some way. And when we shame them and guilt them and like criticize them and try to get them away from us, they get worse. So earlier I gave an example of when a kid's throwing a tantrum, right? You don't take that kid, put it into a closet, close the door and run away, right? That would make it worse. You start pounding on the door, and that's what rumination, and that's what rumination can be like. If you try to make them go away, right? They don't just mystically go away. But if you can pause and ask, hey, what's going on? What do you need? What are you trying to protect me from? Like, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to understand? Like, and start to have a conversation with that protector. And that can be a really great way to naturally start to understand your rumination so that it doesn't arise as much. Some other things that you can think about that are a little bit less ethereal, if you will, I suppose, would be brain dumping. So journaling down. A lot of times rumination happens because 70% of your brain is for vision, but when you're ruminating, it's all in your head. And so you literally can't see your thoughts in your head necessarily, as well as when you journal down. So when you write stuff out and you journal it down, now 70% more of your brain can see that information, process it, beginning, middle, end, store it away, and move on. So that can be super helpful. And then I have people do a stress or fear journal where they're writing down, not the fear journal Tim Ferriss talked about, although I do suggest that as well in different situations. But point is, what you want to do is write down the ruminations and ask what are the biggest fears or around those ruminations, right? Dump those down and dedicate specific time to do this journal where you're doing the all the rumination at once, essentially. Those would be some suggestions. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about that, Jody, and let me know if that would help. And if not, the other thing I would suggest that you do is check out our Anxious to Action Challenge. It's if you go to the link in our bio, Jody, we're talking about this actually, how to do this, how to have this conversation with yourself. So it's starting this week, I believe. So I highly suggest you go check that out, links in our bio. I think you'll like it. It's 5 days, it's fun. We go live, you get to talk with me one-on-one. So Nicolette, I know that I was a victim of CPTSD due to psychological and physical abuse by my mom, but to TBC. Amazing, thanks. All right. Tell me more about that, Nicolette. CPTSD versus PTSD for people that are curious. CPTSD is complex PTSD, and PTSD itself, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. CPTSD is long exposure, consistent, prolonged exposure to trauma or abuse. PTSD is more referred to as like a moment, right? A thing that happened, an instant, like a war and something happens, something like bad happens right next to you. It's a moment in time. So just for anybody that didn't know that. Wow, I'm going to do that. Hell yeah, I'm glad I could help anytime. What other questions you guys have? If you haven't already, again, we're talking about this and tons more in the Anxious to Action Challenge. Monica, I have a lot of anxiety. Thank you for admitting that. That's the first step. It's okay to be anxious. Everybody is at some point. If there's a piece of it that's there for a reason. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Anytime. Monica, if you have a lot of anxiety, I would highly suggest you check out the Anxious to Action Challenge or DM me, either one. Hypervigilant gal here. What up? Hypervigilant dude, right here. We go anxious to action. It's like my biggest goal. But we have that challenge coming up. Sorry. So Anxious to Action Challenge. If you're hypervigilant, if you are have a lot of anxiety, go check that out. The link is in our bio. It's live with me every night. So you get a private one-on-one with me. We go live as a group. It's really, really fun. I highly suggest you check it out. Okay, thank you. Anytime, Monica. Or DM me too. If you don't want to get into the challenge, just DM me. So I'm happy to help. I'm that girl. Over here too. Over here what? What's going on? Talk to me. Oh, okay. Other questions, comments, concerns, feelings, thoughts, emotions? What do we got? Talk to me. We got tons of sticky notes all over the place right now. Trying to remember things. I don't know if you guys do. Do you know of an online chat? SOS survivors. I don't know of one specifically, but if you DM me, I can talk to you a little bit about ours. And welcome back. Ricky, but glad I remember you were on the other night as well. I'm a little afraid to get a mixed diagnosis if I go for an evaluation as I got too good at masking. Misdiagnosed for what? Help me understand that. Or is a form that is safe? Yeah, DM me. Happy to talk to you a little bit more about a place that you can go for survivors. And then tell me a little bit, what are you worried about being misdiagnosed with CPTSD or PTSD or ADHD, or I missed one of your comments and now it's disappeared. Thanks, anytime. Got it. Okay. So if that's your fear, you know yourself better than anyone. I would, first of all, highly recommend that you check out going to talk to someone who understands trauma and understands narcissistic abuse or abuse in general or trauma in general. So someone who's trauma informed would have a better understanding of CPTSD, ADHD, PTSD, those types of things. That'd be the first thing. And I'd be happy to help you out as well. You want to DM me or check out the Anxious Action Challenge. Can you talk about trauma from narcissistic people, especially work-related, in a few years of exposure? Sure. What would you like me to talk about in relation to that? Chef Brandon Allen. Thanks. Is it normal to feel like depression and recovering from narcissistic abuse and trauma bond is depleting? J. Kate, yes, that is very, very normal. So what's happening is you are, when you're going through abuse, you get to, so you've got 3 levels, okay? You've got this green level that's calm, cool, collected, healthy. That's green. Then you've got yellow, right? Which is the sympathetic state where you're in the fight or flight mode. And then you've got the red state, which is hyper arousal, like you're like, you're too high. And so your brain has to pull a lever and drop you down. To keep you safe. And so it calls it quits. It's like chill out. And so as you're healing from that, as you're getting abused, that baseline, so you like naturally everybody is in the green, right? Again, we are born the 8 C's that we talked about: calm, connected, curious, courageous, confident. What are the other ones? Confident, clear, courageous, creative, connected, calm, compassionate, curious. I got them up here. Sorry. And so that's the green. And so what happens when you're getting an abuse, that baseline is moving up. So you're staying in a more sympathetic state, or you're in a hyper sympathetic state, hypo, right? Which turns into a parasympathetic state, which is more than I have time to explain right now. But what's essentially going on is you're shifting your baseline of being triggered or in an energetic state. And so your brain has literally been like imagine putting your foot down on the gas pedal for years at a time and never letting up. You haven't got or you haven't gotten any gas or oil or changed the tires or done any maintenance, right? And so it's completely normal to feel depressed, or not depressed, but depleted, and some of those feelings. So, and if you are working through some of those types of things, please DM me and reach out to me. I'd be happy to chat with you guys about this stuff in more depth, or sign up for the Anxious Action Challenge, which is starting. The first one is starting soon. It's starting on Thursday. So please sign up for that. Link is in our bio. But otherwise, I have to go do the Anxious Action Challenge. It's live with me every night. So with a private group. So I'm jumping into our previous challenge, the last day of our previous challenge. The next one is starting on the 7th, starting on the 5th. So if you haven't figured that, if you haven't gone to our bio, click the link there to sign up for it, go check that out, or DM me. Happy to help you guys with that. Otherwise, I've got to hop off here. Thank you so much for hopping on. Peace out, everybody.